Welcome to the Continuous Revenue Marketer podcast, where the most influential marketers in the world are sharing their insights and lessons on the critical topic chief executives must address daily: how to deliver profitable revenues consistently for their organization through customer growth and lifetime value optimization. And most importantly, what strategies, tactics, and methodologies they're employing to achieve these goals with a high ROI on their marketing spend. Hi, I'm Russell Kern, CEO and founder of Kern, an Omnicom agency, and I'm joined with my co-host and producer, Elliot Dennis. And today we have a very special guest who will be joining us, Shiona McDougall from RAPP, who brings us over 20 years of experience as the Global Chief Marketing Strategy Officer, if I think I have that correct. Yes, Global Chief Strategy Officer. And she has got some great information to share with our listeners today. And so, Shiona, I want to welcome you. Where are you now in the world?
Hi, Russell. I'm in London today, having just actually flown back from Berlin. I was in Berlin yesterday, but today I'm in London, which is where I live.
Ah, nice. Wonderful. Can you, it's kind of magical, isn't it, that you're in London and we're in California and Elliot's in Chicago. With all my gray hair, I love all this. So it's wonderful. How about we give our listeners a little bit of background on yourself and the path you took to get you to your current role?
Okay. So I'm global CSO for RAPP, like you mentioned, and I've actually been at RAPP in London for 11 years already, doing various strategy roles along the way to till I got to the point a few years ago where I took on the role of global CSO. But actually, throughout my whole career, I would say I've always been a commercially oriented marketeer. In the olden days, we used to call it direct marketing. But
I remember those.
Yeah. But actually, I think it's a kind of commercial orientation, always looking for the next thing that's going to give competitive edge for the businesses that I work with. And sometimes that's an insight that will springboard into amazing creative ideas. And sometimes that's about adopting new technologies or ways of doing things that will help a business leapfrog. And for me, the outcome is what matters most. That's and I've done that throughout my career, both client side and in agency side roles. And that got me here today, based in London, still looking for insights, springboards, and leapfrog opportunities for the clients that I work with.
And a lover of the zombie apocalypse, which we'll cover. Before we get to the zombie apocalypse, just give a smattering of some of the clients you've worked for.
Okay, so in theory, I work across all of RAPP's clients as needed, but I do, of course, have some favorites. I think I'm not supposed to say that, but it's like having a favorite child. I think people do have favorites. The ones I'm working on at the moment, for example, are Ford, a little bit, and PayPal, which is a fascinating business and of course has gone skyrocket since the beginning of the apocalypse, or sorry, the COVID-19 pandemic. Also clients like Virgin. I love the Virgin brand and I have enjoyed working on the Virgin brand, particularly with Virgin Media here in London for several years now. And Samsung is a brilliant client to work with. So innovative, so exciting, and we do lots of social activity with Samsung, which is innovative and exciting and technology based.
Oh, what a diverse experience that you bring to your clients, and I think that's important for any marketer. I know many of our chief marketers have that but for any young marketers listening, diversity is the key to wisdom and knowledge on your career growth. So you wrote an article about the zombie apocalypse in the Cookieless World. I'd like to talk about, first of all, what makes you a fan of zombie apocalypses? And then as you go, let's talk about the cookieless world, the zombie cookieless world, because I know that's a very passionate topic of yours.
I'm going to be absolutely unapologetic for the hyperbole of relating marketing challenge to the zombie apocalypse. And that is partly because I do love the zombie apocalypse genre. Maybe, you know, several years ago, I might have thought of zombie movies as sort of silly blood and guts stories that probably wouldn't have interested me. But it was actually The Walking Dead, the TV series, that got me hooked. And it was through this absolutely amazing show that I realized that zombie movies and zombie shows are not actually about zombies, they're about people.
Oh.
And what I've come to realize is that every other genre of movie or story, in fact, more than every other genre of movie or story, the zombie genre is about people, because usually what happens, the apocalypse, whatever form it happens to take, removes all of the trappings of modern life that get in the way of people and what's in their heads. So that means that, you know, there are no mobile phones or people who just slump in front of the TV of an evening, or even, you know, lazily go to Google to look up the answers to things. When you've got none of those trappings of modern life, all you're left with is people and their hopes, their fears, their dreams, their relationships, the politics. And the zombie apocalypse movie brings all of those things into really sharp focus. And ultimately, all marketeers, I think, should be zombie apocalypse fans, because you learn so much about people. And having got hooked by The Walking Dead, I've, you know, since, you know, watched all the movies, and all of the, you know, side shows that go with it, and all of, you know, it's a brilliant genre, and you learn so much about people. It's like the best research focus group in the world.
So clearly, you know, but what I'm hearing you say is we're getting to the heart of the matter. I had a client at dinner the other night say to me that they're teaching her daughter in school, if you can win the heart, the head will follow, which I thought was just such a powerful statement. So I'd like to now transition us to, okay, we have people raw, exposed down to their emotions. What is this cookieless world we're talking about? What is the big news? What's going to happen? You know, educate me and educate our audience about, hey, this is what we're going to be facing it very soon or right now. Tell us about that.
So what actually is going to happen is relatively unexciting. All that is going to happen in 2022, and I think it's November 2022, third-party cookies will no longer be supported by Google Chrome.
Okay.
And all that means is that ultimately brands will no longer be able to follow you around the internet. And because Chrome has such a high penetration across the globe in terms of usage, it means that advertisers who have relied on third-party cookies to tell them where to serve advertising to consumers, that will just no longer be available to them. So
that feels like a pretty big deal, given how important retargeting is. And so I don't know, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Why is this not a big deal? It sounds like a pretty big deal.
So it is a big deal, and it's a big deal because lots of brands have relied rather lazily, I would say, on third-party cookies. What it means is that actually a lot of marketing is, in theory, going to get a lot less relevant, particularly display advertising. I suspect it might not actually get that much less relevant, because I'm not sure it's particularly relevant as it is. I think there are assumptions made about people based on third-party cookie data that are not necessarily true assumptions. And I think actually digital display advertising in particular has never been particularly good at getting relevant messages to the right people. So this forces brands to get to grips with first-party data, which is very different to the third-party cookie data. And actually, you will still be able to do retargeting using first-party data, just not third-party data. So you're going to be forced to use the better data in order to deliver, hopefully, more relevant, better targeted communications.
So, and Elliot, I don't know if you have a follow-up question, but and get ready for one. But so, my question is, well, what happens if I don't have that first-party data? Does that mean I need to, if I'm prospecting for new customers, does that mean I need to acquire the first-party data? What's really going to happen? Let's pretend, okay, how is it really going to work?
So I do think that most brands are going to have to figure out how to deal with first-party data. And, there are lots of brands out there who have never really engaged with first-party data in the past, partly because they've never really had the requirement to have a direct relationship with their consumers. Often there might be, for example, there might be a retailer in between, for example, and the retailer holds that first-party relationship. But I do think that brands are now in a situation where they are going to have to do progressive data capture and start to hold first-party data that allows them to understand more about the customers that they serve and to be able to serve them better.
Ellie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you talked about lazy retargeting. And on a previous episode, we talked about my latest car buying experience that was so personalized. Part of that because the auto manufacturer did have some first-party data on me, but how well they did it retargeting relevant ads in real time based on the features that I was actually engaged with, then on the right sites that correlated to those type of features. So exactly. But I've also noticed when I was doing some shopping for competitor brands that there was, lazy retargeting done on their parts, just general because they knew I was on their site. So any tips you could give to our audience on, you kind of touched on that and how to capture first party data, but other tips on how they could kind of get out of their own way when it comes to lazy retargeting and kind of move towards the future of, personalized targeting.
Yeah, I think a lot of this goes back to basics, really, in terms of really thinking about who you're targeting, like who are those people, and thinking about methods of segmentation of those people that go beyond the basic demographic information. And again, this is where lazy third-party targeting often relies on high level demographic assumptions that are made about people. But actually, just because I'm a 40-something-year-old woman living in London with a family and a Volvo and whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that I want the same as even somebody with that same profile who lives 3 doors down the road. Actually, we might be very different people with very different needs, very different style preferences, very different attitudes. And I think this is where actually first party can really come into its own, is that it can get to the individual and you can get to properly understanding the who, and building information about the who. So first party data is not one and done, whereas third party cookies is kind of fluid and kind of it's available to serve something to someone today, right now, whereas first party data, you can build on that over time, and you can add layers of knowledge and add layers of insight and add layers of understanding of what works and what doesn't work to those people. So again, it is right back to those first principles of direct marketing, and that's what's going to become valuable as we move into a first party world.
So I find it interesting, which is some of the old rules of birds of a feather flock together, homogeneous geography and zip code or community or postal code are lookalike audiences. And I think what we are learning as marketers is the day of homogenizing a community is over, and that there is a million uniquenesses that drive our purchase decision and our preferences. And so you and your neighbor, while you might demographically look the same, your value systems could be as different as day and night. Yeah. And thus the brand market who doesn't start into the market by saying, no, everybody's different versus everybody is the same, is setting themselves up to not get the optimization from their investments.
Yeah, and I think the key is that today it's entirely possible to treat every single person as an individual and to recognize and reflect all of the information that is possible to know about that individual.
Great.
And, that's possible today. It wasn't possible 20 years ago when, demographic segmentation was a thing, but it is possible today. And so because you can, then you probably should.
Good. Well, Shiona, I want to thank you for your time on this episode to talk about the future of the cookieless world and really what it means and the challenges that marketers are going to have to face in terms of collecting and managing first-party data. I want to encourage our audiences to listen to our next episode where Shiona is going to present a very unique and customized approach to self-assessment of how marketers are going to be, how prepared they are for delivering personalized experiences. So on behalf of Elliot and myself, I want to thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of this podcast. Until next time, I'm Russell Kern.
The Continuous Revenue Marketer has been brought to you by Kern, an Omnicom precision marketing agency that helps Fortune 500 companies increase revenue from customer acquisition to loyalty through personalization at speed and scale. For more information, please visit kernagency.com.